Oh, look at that tasty locust. Hello, my name is Elijah, John the Baptist, and I dwell between two worlds. You see, God was humanity's father. He provided for us, gave us tasks to do and guidelines to follow, but we sinned against him and lost relationship. So God wanted to make a man his family, Abraham. Abraham was promised that he would have multitudes of descendants, that he would inherit the land of Canaan, and that all the world would be blessed through him. How was he to help fulfill this promise? By commanding his children to keep God's commandments. Abraham's descendants were in Egypt. They grew so much that they were enslaved. God sent Moses to bring them out of slavery with many miracles. God performed 10 plagues so that the Israelites could teach the children and grandchildren what God did so that they would know God. The Passover celebration was meant to promote obedience, as they would teach their children what God had done through the Passover and would promote knowing God and obedience. God was going to give the Israelites the land of Canaan. If they wanted to dwell there, they had to keep God's commandments and teach the children to obey God's commandments. That way, God's people would fear God and live a long life in the land if they would teach the children diligently, talking about God's word at home, walking around when they got up and they went to bed. But God knew that his people would not teach the children diligently, and so would be cast out of the land. But God would make sure that his people and the children would love God with all their heart, and bring them back into the land, circumcising their hearts so that they would love God with all their hearts. God's word was not just meaningless words, it was their very life, and they would teach the children God's word, the means to survive in the land. We see in God's prophets that Israel was hard-hearted, and they didn't teach the children God's word. They were cast out of the land. But God promised through his prophets that he would send forth his spirit and his word to go into their hearts, so that eventually they'd be brought back into the land, and that all their children would be taught by the Lord, and great would be the prosperity of their children. God promised to turn the hearts of the children to the fathers, and the fathers to the children. Writings want us not to forget God, who he is, and what he's done, and to remember to obey him. Proverbs wants the Israelites to listen to their parents' teaching, as that is life to those who find it. Hearkening back to Deuteronomy 32 verse 47. Then you have me. God's Spirit has come just like Joel said. Jesus the Messiah says that children can be his disciples and are to be highly esteemed, as they are gifts from God. Paul emphasizes Proverbs' call to discipline and produce obedient children. Now what can we learn from these things? First, it's your job to teach your kids. It's not the church's job. That's only supplementary. Second, start getting your kids things to recite, things like the 10 Commandments and the Lord's Prayer and the Apostles' Creed, to help them remember who God is, what he's done, and what should be our response to him. Third, train up a child in the way they should go, and when they're old, they won't depart from it. Children are the most teachable. Start early.